Okay, let's dive right into this. Welcome, grade 12 students and focused learners, to today's explainer. We are tackling something absolutely massive, and honestly, pretty exciting today. We're going to deconstruct how contemporary literature acts like a mirror. But, not the kind of mirror that just passively reflects reality back at you. No, we are looking at literature that aggressively shatters societal biases and long-held structural stereotypes. So if you've ever felt kind of boxed in by people's expectations of where you come from, well, this is exactly where you want to be. Here is our super quick roadmap for today. We'll be following the I-Law framework. First, we'll elicit and engage to set things up. Second, we'll explore the literary tug-of-war. Third, we explain the critical frameworks. Fourth, we elaborate using a stereotype scale. Fifth, we evaluate our verdict. And finally, step 6, we extend all of this out into the real world. All right, let's kick things off with phase 1. Elicit and engage, the setup. I want you to picture something with me. Imagine a long chalk line drawn straight down the middle of the room, what we'd call the Hattinglinje, or the dividing line. On the left side, we have the urban lifestyle zone. You know the vibe: fast-paced opportunity, modern, highly intelligent. On the right side, the rural provincial life zone. This is a space the media often tags as simple, static, maybe even uneducated. Now, if I were to shout out those phrases, where would you physically step? Which side of the line do you instinctively gravitate toward? And that brings us to a really crucial question. Are those labels actually accurate reflections of real life, or are they just structural stereotypes artificially imposed on us? To prove just how easily we fall for these myths, picture this. I'm holding a paradox box. If I show you a piece of rough provincial sackcloth and a sleek modern paper bag, your brain makes an instant assumption, right? But what happens when I pull a high-tech smartphone out of that rough sackcloth and an ancient localized manuscript out of the sleek bag? Boom, mind blown, right? Contemporary literature plays this exact same game. It actively challenges these rigid binaries. Moving right along to phase 2, explore, the literary tug-of-war. Think of this process like the Contrabilia game. Imagine we divide the room into two intense factions: urban analysts on one side, provincial responders on the other. Your mission? A 15-minute high-stakes textual scavenger hunt. You have to comb through a contemporary essay to find specific lines that either map out an urban bias or actively shatter a regional stereotype. You're literally pulling the literary debate to your side of the room. Okay, let's level up. Phase 3. Explain. Critical frameworks. You see, post-1945 essayists absolutely love using irony and juxtaposition by placing traditional provincial folkways right alongside modern urban spaces. Authors highlight these crazy systemic cultural contradictions. As scholar Eric Martin pointed out back in 2020, juxtaposition exposes the uneven developments of modernity. Basically, it forces you, the reader, to stop letting deep cultural stereotypes just pass by unnoticed. It makes you actively reevaluate your own geographic assumptions. But hold on, why do these biases even exist in the first place? Well, this brings us to a massive, game-changing concept: Orientalism. This framework reveals how dominant power centers construct artificial binary opposites. Basically, they frame themselves as the center, meaning they're modern, fast-paced, highly rational, while labeling the periphery, or the rural areas, as backward and lacking intelligence. And guys, this isn't an accident. It is a structural invention specifically designed to maintain control. And we really have to thank scholar Edward Said for this framework. In his landmark 1978 work, he demonstrated exactly how dominant powers construct these artificial binaries to maintain their authority. Today's contemporary essayists borrow heavily from Said's work to prove that these geographic divisions, they're just myths. They are not true reflections of human identity. So if we aren't just urban and we aren't purely provincial, what the heck are we? Enter the concept of the hybrid third space. This is a creative cultural arena where individuals actively translate, combine, and completely redefine their roots. You aren't stuck in one box. You are building a flexible, dynamic, personal identity that borrows from every way you've ever been. This incredible concept actually comes from post-colonial theorist Homi Bhabha, published in 1994. Bhabha flatly rejects the rigid split that forces a modern migrant, or honestly any of us, to choose between being purely provincial or completely urbanized. His theory is literally a lifeline. It means you can navigate a modern migration narrative, like moving to a sprawling metropolis, without ever losing the authentic roots of your hometown. You get to be both. And Toni Morrison masterfully executed this in her 1987 Pulitzer Prize-winning novel, Beloved. She established narrative architecture as a literal tool for liberation. Morrison emphasized the power of writing from within a community's true voice, flatly rejecting those distorted definitions created by external observers. Reclaiming hidden historical and sociocultural truths, that is exactly how literature actively disrupts lazy systemic biases. Let's bring these heavy theories down to earth. Phase 4, elaborate, the stereotype scale. To really visualize the tension in a text, we can draw what's called a stereotype scale. Picture a physical balancing scale. On the left pan, you place an essay quote that perfectly reflects a traditional bias, say an urban superiority trope. Then, on the right pan, you balance it with a progressive subversion, a quote where the author uses irony to totally destroy that exact same trope. You can even picture a towering skyscraper weighed against a humble nipa hut to mentally map out how the author deconstructs the stereotype. Which brings us to Phase 5, evaluate, responder's verdict. Imagine a strict 4-minute ticking clock. Go! I give you an unseen concluding line from a contemporary essay. You have just minutes to write down your verdict. Did the author affirm or did they question the traditional socio-cultural practices? And here is the kicker. You have to cite exactly one word from the text as your undeniable evidence. No fluff, just proof. The ultimate goal here is proving absolute mastery. You are demonstrating that you can independently decode a text's structural intent. You aren't relying on a study guide or a teacher. You are using your own sharp analytical skills to pinpoint exactly when an author confirms a stereotype and exactly when it breaks it down. Finally, Phase 6, extend, real-world language. So here is your real-world mission, community language tracking. I want you to try listening to conversations in your own household or neighborhood. Find a real-world example of code switching, like combining Tanglish structures right in the middle of a formal sentence, or listen for regional slang mixing with academic dialects. Log these interactions. Observe how language itself is a tool we use every single day to challenge expectations. Because at the end of the day, literature is not just a dusty textbook. It is a living arena. It demands action. The theories we explored today, from Baba's hybridity to Morrison's true narrative voice, give you the framework. But the question now is, when you navigate your own journey between the province and the city, will you have the courage to look into that mirror and shatter the distorted assumptions reflected back at you? Think about that as you observe the language in your community tonight. Keep challenging the binary and stay curious.